Good morning. This is Tuesday, morning prayer reflection, June 30th. And I'm going to reflect on Numbers chapter 22, verse 21 to 38. And I would say it is choosing whom to obey, our wills or God's will. This is the story of Balaam the prophet, and he had a plan, and the Bible tells us that he woke up that morning and saddled his donkey and went on his way. And whatever he was going to do, ultimately God wasn't pleased. It wasn't the right decision, whatever he was going to do. So he shouldn't have taken the trip, as I understand. So things started to go wrong. So the donkey wouldn't move forward at some point, so which is really typical of donkeys. They can stop, and whatever you do, they're not gonna move forward. They can be stubborn that way with no real reason. But this time there was really a reason. Balaam, the prophet, couldn't see it. But then God, at some point, he allowed Balaam the prophet to see what was wrong. What the problem was, why the donkey wasn't moving forward. There was a real obstacle, and an angel of the Lord was standing there with a drawn sword. And now, then, when he saw the angel of the Lord, he was ready to apologize and to obey the instructions of the Lord. Now, we might think it unfortunate to become a prophet, since it seems to imply that you have to always be in tune with the will of God, and if not, then your journey can become intimidating, perhaps even disastrous. But what does really this teach us? We must not think that when we sin or we do things that displeases God, that we are not provoking God, or that God is not angry just because we can see the result of it like right away. It doesn't mean that God is not concerned. God may not show his displeasure like in the case of the prophet Balaam. But can you imagine getting home and your cat or your dog saying to you, "Now you have done it. There is no way you are going to cook tonight because I have chewed up all the electrical wires"? Have you asked forgiveness to that person? I don't know about you, but I think I would faint. God's power is beyond our wildest dreams. Just because you haven't heard about it in your time, it doesn't mean it is not possible. We are to be concerned with the will of God. Our decisions may be influenced by reasons that are not worthy of the Lord. Just think about it. What every day we make decisions. Why do we make those decisions? Is it for us? Is it for the sake of everyone else? I don't know. But we do have motives, all of us. We do have motives. Most times we may be thinking of our own interests. I want to advance, I want to do this, and I must do it no matter what. And we don't know, maybe we don't care how other people are going to be affected when we take those decisions. But God's way guides us to look first on the interests of others. Jesus said, "For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you will save it." I can see this also in the letter of Paul to the Romans. He tells us about a life lived in the flesh, a life full of sinful passions, a choice that eventually leads us to death. But also, this letter clearly shows that there is a life that can be led through the Spirit. a life that is completely under the grace of God. We have to every day constantly have to learn about God's commandments, read the Bible. That way we can understand God's character. In the Old Testament, plenty of places we see God is not pleased by this particular attitude. God is not pleased by this particular attitude. We learn each day what pleases God. Faith pleases God. We learned from the Old Testament how it with Abraham, God counted faith for him as righteousness. Faith pleases God. And in one of the recent reflections, we talked about Jesus commending the faith of the centurion. He had come and he had asked God, would you, if you say one word, then my servant at home will be healed. And God is pleased by our faith. What is it that God requires of me? May I think like that in the morning when I wake up. What is it that God requires of me? Could it be true that this particular conviction that I have clashes with God's will? And when I find out that it is so, then I would apologize to God. There's nothing wrong with changing our minds. If we belong to God, then we need to represent God very well. This made me remember the first people who welcomed our family in exile. They practiced their faith. They didn't have enough food for themselves, but they were more than willing to share the little they had. I thought that was very remarkable. I was very impressed. It was how life in Jesus Christ should look like. I thought in my mind, wow, I don't know if I would have done that, but they demonstrated to us what it meant for them to follow Jesus Christ. May we also feel the same way, learning about how following Jesus Christ may affect the people around us. May you be blessed today and forever. Amen.